Beneath the quiet surface of seemingly ordinary lives, secrets often fester, waiting for the precise moment to unravel everything. This story delves into the fragile boundaries of trust, loyalty, and desire, where one discovery can ignite a storm of anger, doubt, and despair. It is a journey into the human psyche, exploring how betrayal distorts perception, tests moral limits, and forces impossible decisions. In the midst of love, jealousy, and deceit, the characters are pushed to their breaking points, confronting not only each other but the darkest recesses of their own hearts. Here, every choice carries weight, every revelation shakes the foundation of relationships, and every emotion threatens to consume reason. One quiet evening, as the dim yellow light spilled across the polished wooden floor, Vernon's hand brushed over the drawer of Nicole's desk almost absent-mindedly. At first, it was nothing more than a fleeting curiosity, a subconscious gesture he had never made before. Yet, in that instant, fate seemed to tighten its grip around him. Buried beneath layers of mundane documents lay a small, seemingly innocuous paper, an ADN test, meticulously concealed. His eyes scanned the results, and time slowed. Every number, every letter, every notation struck him like a sharpened blade, cutting deep into the chest he had always thought was strong and unbreakable. The baby in Nicole's womb was not her husband's child. It was Doug's. Shock paralyzed Vernon. The world he had built, the life he had trusted, the woman he had loved, it all collapsed in a heartbeat. Nicole, whom he had believed to be the anchor of their family, now represented the ultimate betrayal. His chest tightened with a storm of emotions, anger, disbelief, and an aching sense of helplessness. The fury was not only directed at Nicole but at himself, for his blindness, for the trust he had placed so naively, for the signs he had failed to notice. Doug's face invaded Vernon's mind. Calm, confident, unerringly self-assured. Every subtle gesture, every casual smile between him and Nicole that Vernon had dismissed as innocent now revealed itself as an insult, a challenge, a provocation. The anger surged in Vernon, mingling with the bitter sting of jealousy and heartbreak. He longed to scream, to confront Nicole, to demand answers, yet reason whispered a stark warning: one wrong move could destroy everything. Observing Nicole from afar, Vernon watched her move about the house with practiced nonchalance, preparing dinner, chatting as if nothing had happened. Her calm demeanor twisted the knife deeper. How could she maintain such poise after such a betrayal? Every ordinary sound, the clink of cutlery, the faint scent of her perfume, felt tainted, each detail a fresh reminder of deceit. Vernon's mind became a battlefield, torn between the need to lash out and the necessity of restraint. Night after night, Vernon wrestled with possibilities, each more torturous than the last. Confronting her directly risked shattering their fragile household. Remaining silent meant living in the shadow of lies, watching the betrayal fester. Even the thought of revenge tempted him, whispering dark solutions that promised satisfaction but threatened his soul. Each scenario played on a loop, leaving him exhausted, paranoid, and painfully aware of the precarious position he now occupied. He began observing Doug, too, studying his habits, noting the ease with which he infiltrated Nicole's life. Vernon wanted to expose him, punish him, make him feel the same gut-wrenching anguish he had endured. Yet each step he considered carried weighty consequences, and each consequence carried its own brand of pain. Vernon realized that betrayal was not a momentary event, it was a chain reaction, a fracture in reality that could never be undone. The internal struggle tore at him relentlessly. Why had he not seen the signs? Why had he trusted so completely? Self-recrimination mingled with searing anger, creating a bitter cocktail that gnawed at his peace of mind. And yet, beneath the chaos, a cold, strategic clarity emerged. If he could not rely on emotion, he could rely on observation, on logic, on careful planning. He would not allow the betrayal to define him, but he would harness it, transforming it into a weapon. Every interaction with Nicole became a test. Her casual glances, the smallest gestures, even the way she laughed, each carried the weight of suspicion. Vernon could feel himself changing, becoming a version of himself he scarcely recognized, vigilant, calculating, wary of every word and movement. The man he had been, the trusting, loving husband, was fading, replaced by a figure of simmering tension, driven by the need to reclaim control over his shattered reality. Even the quiet moments of solitude were unbearable. Memories of what had been, the laughter, the intimacy, the illusions of trust, collided violently with the present, leaving him teetering on the edge of despair. And all the while, the shadow of Doug loomed over every thought, a constant reminder of the stakes, the threat, the humiliation. Vernon understood that no course of action would be free of pain. He would have to navigate a landscape littered with emotional landmines, each step a test of endurance and cunning. Vernon's nights stretched into a haze of restless thought, plotting and replanning, wrestling with what to reveal and what to conceal. Every heartbeat echoed betrayal, every breath was a struggle against the rising tide of fury and grief. He realized that the life he had known was irretrievably altered, and every choice from this point forward could either salvage his dignity or shatter it entirely. The betrayal had transformed the familiar house into a prison of tension. Nicole moved through the rooms with unnerving normalcy, yet to Vernon, her presence was suffocating, each glance a loaded question he could not answer. Every decision he made carried moral weight, emotional cost, and potential danger. He stood on a precipice, caught between vengeance and reason, love and despair, knowing that a single misstep could send everything into chaos. And yet, beneath the rage and despair, a flicker of resolve began to burn. Vernon understood that he could not remain a passive victim. The betrayal had forced him into confrontation, not with the world, but with the fractured elements of his own soul. He would navigate this treacherous path, whatever it demanded, because to do nothing would be to surrender completely to the humiliation and pain that now defined his existence. The revelation of betrayal had transformed Vernon's world into an unforgiving landscape of tension, suspicion, and relentless internal conflict. The knowledge that Nicole carried Doug's child was not merely a fact, it was a seismic shift that tore apart the foundations of trust, affection, and loyalty he had once clung to. Each breath felt heavy, weighted with the sense that his life had been irrevocably altered, that the people he loved most had betrayed him in ways he could scarcely comprehend. Sleep became elusive, nights stretching into a relentless continuum of racing thoughts, imagined confrontations, and scenarios that played out like cruel, unending rehearsals of pain. Vernon found himself teetering on the edge between calculated control and uncontrolled fury. He questioned every past interaction, every shared moment, every smile and whispered word. Had he truly been blind all this time, or had he chosen to ignore the signs to preserve the fragile illusion of normalcy? The intensity of his anger was matched only by the depth of his grief, creating a storm of emotions that threatened to consume him entirely. In quiet moments, he wrestled with the moral ambiguity of his choices. To confront Nicole and Doug directly, to manipulate circumstances from the shadows, or to retreat into silence, carrying the burden of betrayal alone. Every option seemed perilous, a double-edged sword that would inflict pain on someone, even if only indirectly. Nicole herself became a figure of enigmatic complexity in Vernon's mind. Her calm exterior, her effortless composure, appeared almost theatrical against the reality he now understood. He oscillated between fury at her duplicity and a hollow sense of admiration for the control she maintained. Doug, on the other hand, represented everything Vernon despised: audacity, arrogance, and the cruel precision of someone who had inserted himself into the intimate spaces of another man's life. The thought of Doug's smugness, his assumed innocence, gnawed at Vernon, fueling a desire for confrontation that was both irrational and unavoidable. As days blurred into nights, Vernon realized that there would be no simple resolution. The truth had reshaped his perception of love, trust, and family. He could no longer return to the man he had been, nor could he rebuild the life that had been shattered in an instant. Every decision carried consequences that would echo long into the future, every interaction a delicate balance between self-preservation and moral reckoning. The burden of knowledge, of seeing the intimate betrayal laid bare, became a crucible that forced him to confront the darkest corners of his own heart, the capacity for vengeance, the temptation to manipulate, and the inexorable pull of despair. In the end, Vernon understood that survival would demand more than anger or cunning. It would require a relentless confrontation with reality itself. There could be no illusions, no denial, no retreat into comfort. The betrayal had stripped away the facade of normalcy, leaving only raw, unfiltered truth. And in that truth, harsh and unforgiving as it was, Vernon glimpsed a fragile path forward. A path defined not by reconciliation, but by endurance, by the courage to navigate a world forever altered by lies, deceit, and the profound complexities of the human heart. Even as he stood alone, the weight of revelation pressing down like a merciless tide, Vernon recognized that the story was far from over. Each day would demand vigilance, each choice a test of will, and every encounter a potential battlefield. The shadows of betrayal would follow him relentlessly, yet within those shadows lay the faint, stubborn glimmer of resilience, the quiet, unyielding assertion that, even amid devastation, he would endure. The heartache, the fury, the betrayal, they were all part of a relentless journey toward a self forged in the fires of unvarnished truth, a journey that would leave no one unchanged and no wound unexamined.